Hello, I was asked, what is the most important devotion? This because many options have been cropping up online as we are without the churches in these days. And also because we're heading towards Holy Week and we can do many different things. You can pause the video to see your different options. However, the question of what is the most important devotion ought to lead us to the fact that devotion to Christ is the most important. Whatever leads us to God, that's the most important devotion. The Catechism is very clear. Reaching Christ and living with Christ is prayer, celebrating the sacraments, knowing who He is through knowing the faith, and living a life of morals. Everything that leads you and helps you grow in those four things is your best devotion. However, sometimes we look at people in the church and we say, I wish I could be praying on my knees like that group over there, or I wish I got as much out of the rosary as this other group over there. I wish I could enjoy the choir as much as others do. And we can base our holiness based on our idea of what other people's holiness is. We don't get closer to God by imagining ourselves as somebody we aren't. We get closer to God by being ourselves in God's arms. This book talks about love languages with God. You may be familiar with the concept for your marriage. And we might even add a few because it wasn't written by a Catholic, so we have even more ways of connecting to God. And the real question is to say, okay, when were you really touched by God? When was the moment you felt His presence? And how can you replicate or create things like that again in your own life today? And then comes the question of talking about that in your family and saying, when I pray the rosary, this is what I feel. Or when I pray this other devotion, this is how I feel. Or when I read the Bible, I receive these words of encouragement. I've listed the different ways of growing according to different styles, but there might be more. And I really would encourage you to explore in your family, how is it that you can become more united to God? How is it that you can become more devout? Relating to Him, not to a practice. Every devotion, from the rosary that is so recommended, to other things, only matter in as much as it brings us to God and brings us to people who bring it to God. So imagine that, the dinner table tonight, where you discuss what brings you closest to God, what are your deepest moments of prayer, and then together, looking at a way in which you can increase your devotion. Again, also remember, you can only do what you can. So be prudent in what you take up. Don't take up a lot of things and then you have to drop all of them. Take up new practices little by little. Also knowing this quarantine time has all of our times in a different place. But go back to that conversation and find a way that you and your family can discover how to rejoice in God's love this Holy Week and then forever after. God bless.